So the first 3 questions, it asks you for the same things. You need to find, for the first 2, I'm going to change it to y-intercept, but the third one stays as the x-intercept. And then the axis of symmetry, vertex, where it's increasing and decreasing, and the max or min. So remember, you're either going to have a max or min, so you just need to state whether it's the max or the min, and then at what point is that max or min. And we have to graph. So we have one that's in standard form, one that's in vertex, and one that's in intercept form. So when we have standard form, the best thing to do is start with your axis of symmetry, which it's that formula that's negative b over 2a. And remember, we got our a, b, and c from our coefficients in our function. So we have, for our axis of symmetry, negative b, so this would be negative 8 over 2 times 2. So this would be 8 over 4, which is 2. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to 2. Remember that your axis of symmetry is a vertical line, so you need that x is equal to 2. You can't just put 2. It's got to have that x is equal to 2. What is the first number in our vertex going to be? 2. And how do we find the second number? Plug it in. So we have 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 1. 2 squared would be 4 times 2 would be 8 minus 16 plus 1. So this is negative 8 plus 1, negative 7. So our vertex is 2 comma negative 7. We can go ahead and graph our vertex. So we're going to go to the right 2 and down 7. And now we can find our y-intercept. What would our y-intercept be here?
-7.
Not -7. Remember, our y-intercept we get when x is equal to 0. So we plug 0 in for x. So we have 2 times 0 squared minus 8 times 0 plus 1. So this would be 0 minus 0 plus 1, which is 0. So when we plug in 0, we get 1. So our y-intercept would be the point 0, comma 1. So we go on our graph, we stay at 0 and go up 1. So that would be our y-intercept, where our graph crosses the y-axis. Now that we have 2 points on our graph, do we know what a third point would be?
It would be 4 on 1.
Awesome. So since we're 2 spaces away on the left side here, we need to be 2 spaces away on the right side and still at that same height because our graph has to be symmetrical on both sides. So we're already at 2. We're going 2 more spaces to the right, so now we're at 4, and we go up 1. So this point would be at 4, comma 1. For your test tomorrow, when graphing, you need to have at least 3 points. So you need 3 points. Is our vertex the maximum or the minimum point on our graph? It's the minimum. So our minimum value is at what point? -7. Remember, the max or min always comes from that y value in your vertex. So this would be negative 7. Next we have increasing and decreasing. So remember, we always start at the left side of our graph and go right. So if we were a person walking from left to right, are we going downhill or uphill? Moving right. We're going downhill. So we're decreasing on this side, and then we would be increasing on the other side. So we're decreasing on the left, so it would be left on the bottom here. So left of 2, and then increasing right of 2. Let's take a look at number 2. So here we have vertex form. The best place to start in vertex form is with our vertex. So what would our vertex be here? -2, -1. Awesome. So remember, when we take it from the inside, our h, we need to flip the signs. So we flip the sign of what's inside the parentheses, that h value. So it becomes -2, -1. So what would our axis of symmetry be?
-2.
Awesome. X is equal to -2. So we get our axis of symmetry from the x value in our vertex. Now we can go ahead and graph our vertex and our axis of symmetry. So we're going to go to the left 2 and down 1. So that point is our vertex, and our axis of symmetry is just going to go right through it. How would we find our y-intercept here?
You would plug in 0 for x.
Awesome. We plug in 0 for x. So here it's not as clear to see, so we just need to plug in 0. So we have 0 plus 2 squared times -3 minus 1. So this would be -3 times 2 squared minus 1. -3 times 4 would be -12 minus 1, so we would get -13. So our y-intercept would be 0, -13. So we can go to our graph, we stay on 0 and just go down 13. So our point's going to be right there. Without plugging another number in, do we know another point on our graph?
-4, -13.
Awesome. -4, -13. So since our y-intercept was 2 spaces away on the right, we need to be 2 spaces away on the left. So we go to the left 4 of our axis of symmetry since it was already at -2. We'll go to the left 2 spaces of our axis of symmetry since it was already at -2. It goes to -4. So this would be -4, -13. And then once we have our 3 points, we can connect them with our parabola. Now, if we were a person starting at the left side of our graph and walking towards the right side, are we going uphill to begin or downhill?
You're going uphill?
Uphill. So we would be increasing on this side and then decreasing on the other side. So we are increasing on the left. So left of what?
-2.
Awesome. Left of our axis of symmetry, so left of -2. And then we're decreasing right of -2. And then do we have a maximum value or minimum value at our vertex here?
max of -1.
A max of -1. Perfect. And that -1 comes from our y value in our vertex. So here we have a maximum at -1. All right, let's move on to number 3. So here we have intercept form. So when it's in intercept form, the best place to start is with our x-intercepts. So what are our x-intercepts here?
It would be 3, 0, and 7, 0.
Awesome. 3, 0, and 7, 0. So remember, our x-intercept is when our y is equal to 0. And it comes from the parentheses here, but since it's inside the parentheses, we have to remember to flip our signs. How would we find our axis of symmetry here?
P minus Q divided by 2.
P plus Q divided by 2. So we just take the average of the two. So we have 3 plus 7 divided by 2, which is 10 over 2. So 5. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to 5. What is our first number in our vertex?
I have a question.
Yes. So the original formula for intercept form is y is equal to x minus p times x minus q. So since these are both minus signs in here, we have to flip the sign of the numbers that are inside of our parentheses. We have to flip the sign of our p and our q.
So do you always flip the sign? Or
We always flip the sign of p and q. All right, what's the first number of our vertex? The x value.
5.
And then how do we find the y value?
You plug in 5 for x.
Plug in 5 for x. So we have y is equal to 5 minus 3 times 5 minus 7. 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 minus 7 is -2, so we get -4. So our vertex is 5, -4. So let's go ahead and graph our x-intercepts, our axis of symmetry, and our vertex. So our x-intercepts are going to be 3, 0. So we go to the right 3, stay on 0. And then we go to the right 7, stay on 0. And then our vertex is 5, -4. So we go to the right 5, go down 4. And then our axis of symmetry goes right through 5. And now we have our 3 dots. We don't even need to plug in any more numbers. We can just connect our dots with our parabola. So for intercept form, once you have the 2 intercepts and your vertex, you can just graph it. Now, if we were a person standing at the left side of our graph, moving right, do we start out going uphill or downhill?
Downhill.
Downhill. So we would be decreasing and then increasing. So we are decreasing on the left side. So left of what?
5.
Left of 5, and increasing right of 5. And we get that 5 from our axis of symmetry. So we're decreasing on the left side of our axis of symmetry, which is at 5, increasing to the right. Is our vertex at our maximum or minimum?
Minimum.
Minimum. And what would our minimum value be? Alex, what was our minimum value?
-4.
-4. Perfect. So we get that minimum from our y value. All right, we have 2 more. We need to find the equation of the parabola. The first one gives us a point and the vertex. So are we going to use our vertex form equation, standard form, or intercept form? Vertex form or intercept form?
Vertex.
Vertex form. What is our equation in vertex form? So our equation is y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. Our point gives us our x and y. Our vertex gives us our h and k. And then we just plug everything in. So our y is 12. Our a, we don't know yet, so we're going to have to solve for a. Our x is 1, minus h, which is minus 10, and then plus k, which is minus 4. So we have 12 is equal to a times 1 minus 10 squared minus 4. And now we solve for a. So this would be 12 is equal to a times -9 squared minus 4. We can add 4 to the other side. So 16 is equal to 9 squared. -9 squared would be 81. And then we just divide both sides by 81. And we get a is equal to 16 over 81. What do we do next?
You plug in the vertex and the slope, or A.
Yep, we plug in a and we plug in our h and k. So our new equation is going to be y is equal to 16 over 81 times x minus h squared plus k, which is minus 4. So we have y is equal to 16 over 81 times x minus 10 squared minus 4. This is our equation of our parabola. So all we did was plug in our h and k and our a. All right, last one, let's take a look at number 5. So now we're given the x-intercepts and a point, and we have to find the equation of our parabola. What formula do we use when we are given the x-intercepts and a point?
Intercept form.
Intercept form. So we have y is equal to a times x minus p times x minus q. So what is our y? What's our x and y? Which point?
4 and 3.
4 and 3. So we have our x and y, and what's our p and q?
-1 and 5.
Perfect. -1 and 5. And it doesn't matter which one's our p and which one's our q. So our x-intercepts are P and Q, and then the point is our x and y. So now we just plug everything in. So we have 3 is equal to A times x, which is 4 minus P, which is -1, and then 4 minus our Q, which is 5. So 3 is equal to A, 4 plus 1, because that minus a negative becomes a plus, and 4 minus 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 minus 5 is -1. So we have 3 is equal to -5A. And what do we get for A?
-3/5.
-3/5. Perfect. Now what do we do?
Put it back into the equation.
What do we put back into the equation?
A and P and Q.
Awesome. We plug back in our A, P, and Q. So our new equation is going to be y is equal to -3/5 times x minus -1, which would become a +1, and x minus 5. Any questions here?